Eric is a fun-loving guy, easygoing, always smiling, laughing. Faith was strong, you know, due to his past and things of that nature. He was seeking out the Lord and, you know, just trying to find his way in life.
He had a little bit of trouble in the past, though. And
Yes,
he's
ma'am.
coming around trying to make things better.
Absolutely, absolutely. He worked with the ministry probably 6 months with me, with lawn care, restoration, and went to church Sunday and Wednesday, and helped out in the community. Was loved by many.
And what do you do?
Minister.
Minister.
Yeah, I'm in the ministry. I have a lawn business and also a restoration business.
So you worked with him often. You saw him all the time.
4 days a week, about 4 or 5 days a week.
What's your take on what happened in the undercover sting?
Very unfortunate. You know, I was actually on my way to go pick him up that morning to go to work. I don't think the undercover sting should have been as close to a school zone as that is. I manage the apartments, which is 20 feet away, and very concerned, you know, with the children going back and forth. So for them to do an undercover sting that close to a school bothered me.
Did you drive past where this happened, or you were on your way to get him? Did you?
Yes, ma'am. I got off the freeway and seen the yellow tape all tied around, and I said a prayer. I said, that looks like someone didn't make it, is what I said. And as I came around the corner and came to the complex that I manage, I asked, did you see what went on down there? And they said, well, no. And I says, well, have you talked to my brother? Well, he just walked down to the store. He should be right back. And then at that point, my spirit told me that something was really wrong. So, of course, I started calling. It rang 4 or 5 times. The first 2 or 3 times I called. I asked a gentleman to use his phone to make a call. He denied that. Kind of suspicious. There was a gentleman sitting on the porch waiting on my brother. And I asked him, what are you waiting on? He says, well, we're going to talk when he gets back. Well, he knew that Eric wasn't, that he basically knew what Eric went to go do, and that he didn't let me use his phone because there was a possibility maybe there were some numbers or something on his phone that might connect him to the whole setup or whatnot. So there were some people involved in this situation that connected Eric with these individuals. So.
How did you find out that it was your brother that was there and he'd been shot? And
I left. When I got to the corner, a police officer was directing traffic, and I stopped and I said I was wanting to ask, was it a Caucasian, Hispanic, or an African American? And by the time that I thought to ask, I felt the spirit say, no, that's okay, it wasn't him. Just believe for the best. So I went around the corner and I said a prayer. I came back around and I said, Lord, this don't feel right. I think I better check back in on this a little more. And as I went around the corner, my brother's girlfriend had went to the dollar store, talked to the manager, and said it was my brother, which went by the nickname 40, and said it was him. And she seen it all.
So she then called you? You
Yeah.
saw her in the parking lot?
Well, the manager of the store told her, his girlfriend, and then she went home and called me as I was headed back to the apartment complex at that time.
What was your reaction when you found out?
Shock, real numb, you know, just that feeling of just disbelief. Just no, he hadn't been out long enough, you know. We spent so much time together. It was like, you know, it's time to go to work. You know, let's go to work. You know, and so I mean, even still now, because of how it all went down, I haven't had a chance to really grieve, you know, and really go through the emotion of, you know, sometimes I'm upset, sometimes I'm sad, but I hadn't really had a chance to really grieve his death. We had his funeral and things yesterday, and I just really hadn't had a chance to just really express my love to him, if you will.
At what point did you find out that he was shot by a reserve deputy?
If I'm not mistaken, when she told his girlfriend that he was shot, I asked her who shot him, because the first because someone said at first when I came around the corner that they thought it was a robbery at the dollar store. And that's what I think allowed me to say, no, that wasn't Eric, because he was past, going to robbing a dollar store or anything of that nature. His record wasn't squeaky clean, of course. However, that's not what he was in. He was into actually changing things. And so I said, no, that's not what happened. She says, well, no, your brother was actually shot by a police officer, and not a reserve. I thought a police officer. And so, and then later on, it was a reserve, and then it was, I don't know, however you would say it, a reserve sheriff. Yeah, reserve sheriff, not reserve police officer or anything, reserve sheriff. Then I started trying to figure out what a reserve sheriff is and what he does.
And then when you found out, the guy says he meant to grab his taser, but he grabbed a gun. What are your feelings when you're hearing this?
Well, my feelings are when I see the news and they show a 9mm, a huge gun, and then a very light taser, I'm like, those weigh, that's a big difference in weight. And then when I find out that it wasn't even a 9mm from my sources, that it was a 38, then that's a whole nother story. So I'm just concerned when they're gonna admit that it was a 38 and not a 9mm and let the public know that there was no mistake. If he had that much training and he was what, the third level, the highest possible reserve sheriff that you can be with training and time, and ex-cop, how do you actually mistake a taser for a 38? You don't mistake it. You don't mistake it.
Does this make you angry, really mad?
It makes me wonder why they won't tell the truth. See, I believe that the truth will make you free. And who the Lord sets free is free indeed. This man isn't free in his heart. His spirit is broken. I want the community to know what type of people they have that supposedly protect them.
What do you think really happened?
I think it was a case of blowing something out of proportion that wasn't really as big as they wanted it to be. I believe they wanted to sit around and talk about how they arrested this guy, took him down, roughed him up, hee ha ha with the tough guys. And I believe that it really got out of hand. I really believe that my brother was already subdued, and at 73 or 74, I'm not sure of his age. We haven't had no records. No one's come out to say exactly how old he is. I'm hearing 73, 74, either or, that's up there. I feel that he came up to try to be a superhero. And during that time of supposedly reaching for a taser, he murdered my brother in cold blood.
Do you think it was racially motivated?
I don't think necessarily racially motivated. I think it was, I think it might have had a hint of it, if you will. Do I think if it was a Caucasian guy, it'd have been different? Absolutely. I don't think it would have went to that extreme if it was a young 43 Caucasian. I believe that the city of Tulsa has a real big gap right now in it, and I don't think this brings us together. I think if it was really thought about before it actually happened, it might not have went down quite like that. We have too many of these cases going on around the country, and I love Tulsa. I mean, my friends are 50-50, so I'm not on that, racial this or that. I love all people, and I think we should all love each other. And when things like this happen, it separates us, it bridges, puts a gap in between us. And I think it needs to be addressed.
What about that video? Is that something you want to see?
Absolutely, absolutely. Whenever videos show innocence, it's immediately shown when it's, by the police. But for this video not to be shown, my sources tell me it was video cameras on the dash, there was video cameras on glasses, there was video cameras even in the community that recorded some of this stuff. And we have no videos. And we hear that he had extensive training. We ain't got no paperwork on extensive training. We've heard videos of PCP that he said to them, he was on PCP. My brother has never used PCP. I don't even know what PCP stands for. I know it's embalming fluid and they can never touch that. So for them to just throw up the old saying, oh, he was wild on PCP and fighting, is not true. And if it is true, show the tape. Just show the tape.
Do you think the sheriff's department has been lying throughout the course of this to the media, to?
You know, I wouldn't necessarily say lying. I'd say more covering up. I'd say covering up really what's the truth. See, when you cover it, then it's okay. See, because the community say, well, they just didn't explain it correctly. They don't want to be called flat out liars. They just want to say, oh, well, we wasn't privy to that information yet. And they are. They have all the information they need to let the community know exactly what happened. And they won't bring that evidence forth. They're saying, well, he was supposed to have this gun, but he didn't have that gun. He was supposed to be on PCP, but he wasn't on PCP. See, so what my team is doing is we're strategizing for them to bring all the information forth so that we can question on all the information they have. You know, if he was really resistant, show the tape. If he was really on PCP, show the medical records. If he really had a gun, show it. But you don't have no proof of anything because he didn't have a gun. He wasn't on PCP. He wasn't violent. I don't know if Eric ever had a fight in his life. He's not trying to resist arrest. You got 4 or 5 people on him. He was running. He was trying to get away. He was wanting to be free.
What do you want the outcome of all of this to be?
In the big picture, okay, in the big picture, I want justice. I want the gap to be closed with the brutality that the police officers, in this case, Sheriff Department, have against African Americans. And I do want to state, Tulsa Police, we love you. Never had a problem with the Tulsa Police. They've actually got behind me on this, support me. They actually want to do the investigation. The Sheriff Department doesn't want them to do the investigation. Why? Again, that's another question. Why don't you? It happened in the city of Tulsa, in Tulsa city limits. So let them do the investigation. How are you going to investigate yourself? You can't investigate yourself. It doesn't work like that. Let someone else find the truth out and question you on the truth. You know.
If you could say whatever you wanted to Bob Bates, what would it be? What would you say to him?
For all have sinned and fell short of the glory of God. I don't hate Bob Bates, not one bit. But Bob Bates has done something that needs to be brought to justice. Bob Bates didn't make no accidental mistake and kill Eric if he had all the training he had. Bob is a human being, and my heart goes out to Bob and his family. But Bob has to pay. As Eric's face was scattered all over the news and he was a criminal and he did this and he did that, he did. And he also did the time. And in a cell as big as a shoebox. Bob Bates murdered Eric. Eric never murdered nobody. Eric did quite a bit of time in jail for a lot of small things that he did. This is murder. Bob Bates needs to do time for what he done to my brother. And the community needs to know that they're safer because Bob Bates is in jail.
What are you going to do if they don't file murder charges against him?
I'm going to get together with other people in other states, and we're going to bring to Tulsa, Oklahoma, a cry. I'm gonna come with the Lord in all that I do, and change will come about. This will not go away. It will continue. I would like for all the cops to have cameras on their cars and on their bodies, excuse me, and even glasses. And I would just like them to be more accountable for what they do, instead of just always thinking if I have a bad day, I can go out and kill a black man and get away with it. The case in the Carolinas that just happened a couple of days ago, if that wasn't videoed, we wouldn't even know about it. He wouldn't come forth and say, "Oh man, I went out and killed a young African American yesterday." He would, he would have just went on with his job. And so, because he was caught and videotaped, then he has to be charged with what anybody else would be charged with, which is murder. I mean, you can't. I don't care, because that's your job. You wear a badge, And so if I accidentally killed somebody, that'd be murder. if you did, that would be murder, manslaughter, whatever you want to call it. But you have to take responsibility for your actions, you know.
What happened at Quick Trip?
That's something that we're not going to talk about at this time. But later on, you'll hear about the Quick Trip incident.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add that you think I'm forgetting, or?
I would like to end with, I know justice will be served because I know who my faith lies in and where it lies. I'm not trying to over spiritualize the situation, but we need God on this one. We really do. We left him out of too much, and it's time to bring him back in because this is the only way we'll get change. You know, we've been trying to lean on our own understanding for too long and take the law in our hands for too long. And we just pretty much need to bridge this gap, you know. We need to love each other as human beings and not love each other because one's finances is through the roof and the next man is hungry living in the projects. We are human beings. We all need to be loved and respected as that. I've had a rocky background myself. Now I'm a minister. I reach out into the community and I try to bless other people as the Lord has blessed me. I'll never see my brother again, you know. I'll never see him again. But here on earth, but I'll see him again. And that's the joy that brings me. That's the joy that I have, you know, is that I know I'll see him again. But I think we just need to close the gap. I think people need to take responsibility for their actions. And let's bring some, let's have peace. Let's bring some peace out of this situation. And again, my heart goes out to Bob's Bates family, but justice must be served. Appreciate it.
Spoke very well.
Thank
So
you.
sorry about your brother.
No, I appreciate it.
I hope, oh, yes, please. If you don't mind sitting back down, just
No
he's going to
problem.
get a couple
Okay.
different angles. Was your brother selling guns? Was he selling drugs? Was he doing whatever they...
I'm not for sure exactly what he was doing. Again, if they want to bring the records and show exactly what was going on, I would love to see exactly what he was selling, what he was doing there with the undercover. I'm not for sure. I don't want to speculate. And of course, I'm not going to lie. I don't know, I wasn't there. And I want whatever Eric was doing to be out on the table as well as what they were doing. I just think it should be completely fair. Just put all the evidence on the table and let the courts decide justice.
Did he need money? Was he hurting for money? Would have this been something that he was doing, trying to get some money to...
Trying to be popular. Trying to be popular in the community. I looked out for my brother. He didn't want for anything. If he needed any money, he could easily came and asked me. So.
How long had it been since he was previously in jail?
About 7 months.
7 months.
He came down here, stayed with me. I have transportation. He wasn't in, you know, he didn't need a car. You know, he didn't need money. He didn't need a roof over his head. He didn't need clothes. He had everything that he needed. So, you know, it wasn't a case of survival. You know, it wasn't that. It wasn't, you know, he needed to try to hustle up some money to eat. It wasn't that case. It was him just trying to be popular, had been incarcerated for so long, trying to be, you know, the man, if you will, you know. He was the kind of person that helped anybody and was just always around people, regardless, you know, if he knew you was undercover or, you know, anything of that nature. He just loved people. He didn't judge nobody.
But he was getting his life back on track.
Yes, ma'am. He was getting his life back on track, and he was doing a really good job. He had heard me speak at many different churches, tell my testimony, how God had redeemed me, and it was giving him a lot of hope. So.
Yeah. Do you ever think something like this would happen to somebody you knew, let alone somebody you're related to?
Not in a million years.
Yeah.
You know, you see the Rodney King incident,
Yeah.
and you think, wow, that's pretty brutal. You see this on TV, you think, wow. But for somebody to have such a big heart and love people the way that he did, you know, you had thought he would have had another chance, another opportunity, you know, and not go out like this. When the whole truth comes out, Tulsa, Oklahoma, lay their head down. It'll be pretty sad when people really find out the truth. When all the evidence is on the table, you would never think that this would happen to your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad, for that matter. You know, my brother has a son. He was an uncle. He was, you know, a brother. He was many things to many people.
Are your parents still alive?
No, they're not. Mom is gone, dad is gone, grandparents is gone. And it's me and my nephew, my wife, my children. I got some stepsisters and half brothers, but pretty much it's a small family, and it's now, you know, one less. So.
Did you guys grow up in Tulsa?
We grew up in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Yeah, we grew up in Los Angeles, actually Compton, and we moved here. Opportunity for a better life. My stepdad worked in American Airlines. We moved to Owasso. Moved from, actually I'm gonna write a book one day, from Watts to Owasso, from Grape Street to a great street, because we came from a bad past to a good thing, and you know, we moved from some bad neighborhoods to a real good neighborhood, from a bad school to a good school. It was getting real good for us. So